From new agent to absolutely dominating his market, Jake Logan has transformed his entire life from retiring from the military, just getting into this to, put food on the table and support his family, to absolutely crushing it, closing 10 deals in his first year. Year two will be probably 30 to 40 deals. I cannot wait to share his story. And don't worry, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. He had a quick start. He did the right things while he was getting licensed and moving forward, made the right connections. But then there was a lull, and then it all changed. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that, the trials and tribulations. It's not all sunshines and rainbows. But Jake, as you will see, one of the most authentic people I have ever met, now somebody I call a good friend, and absolutely will continue to dominate the market because of these little steps that he's done, the connections he's made. I can't wait to bring him on. If he is saying something that resonates with you, please comment below. Please reach out to him on his socials. And if you're maybe in need of surrounding yourself with someone like Jake, someone like myself, we can partner together and help you get to where you want to go in your real estate business, on your real estate journey. So please reach out below and we will have that conversation. We'll connect you with Jake. We'll hop on a call and we'll make things happen. Get all of us, all of our coaching, all of our support absolutely for free. But first, let's bring on Jake Logan from Fayetteville, North Carolina, one of my dear friends and someone who has absolutely taken the real estate industry by storm. Jake Logan, my brother, how are you? Thanks so much for popping on. Let's just start with, for people that don't know you yet, which is not a lot because you're crushing social media, you're crushing all the things. How fast did things really happen for you in your first year? And talk about kind of that journey and figuring it out and, what direction you were headed and then kind of how it transformed into where you're at today.
Oh, man. Well, if people do know me, it's not really any of my doings. It's everybody else helping me out and blasting me all over social media and stages now, I guess. But really kind of where it started was about a year and a half ago. I was getting towards the end of my contract in the Army and had some unfortunate situations with a couple of buddies of mine that, they're no longer here, and found myself in, just kind of a dead end spot where it's just like constant work, 18-hour days away from my family, and it's 30 minutes down the road. So I was seeing my kid for 10 minutes a day to go to bed, and that was it. And kind of thought there's got to be something better than this, and talked to, a guy out in Illinois where I'm from, town of 600 people, who somehow knew somebody down here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And one thing led to another person, to another person, and got into real estate. And I think before I was even licensed, I had 3 people lined up to be a client. Mm-hmm. Most of them military, residential, moving here. People that I worked with are in schools and they're all PCS in here. So they're like, hey, I know a guy. I was like, God, yeah, you just gotta stop telling people this because I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like it could be bad. Yeah. And so from September of 2024 to January 1st, 2025, closed 3 deals, still in the Army. And then bought my first rental property, subject to, for $10,000, put $20,000 worth of work into it, making $600 a month of rent. Like everything's going well. Everything's going great. It's so cool. Yeah. Had a couple more deals that were kind of trickling in, a couple of referrals, and then came to a screeching halt at February. And that's when I started running into the land side of things. And that's the whole other piece.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what you were doing to get those connections, to get those transactions out of the gate. I mean, 3 people before you're even licensed kind of in the pipeline, and then closing those is a little bit different. So what did it look like as you were getting your license, as you were figuring it out? What was the key to that, success?
Yeah, really. And I mean, I think I've talked to you about it before too, is, you got the Wolfpack, how they're kind of set up with just value upon value of everybody that joins. There's some sort of value going into it. And it was the same concept with the group I started with 5 Pillars Nation. Still with them, still active with them and trying to learn and all this stuff. But Shelby Johnson and everybody else that founded this created everything that they've done from the time they've been licensed in like 2017 systems, processes, checklists, scripts, canned emails, templates, everything you can possibly imagine is all on a shared drive on Google. And honestly, it was just finding ones that looked best for me and doing the typical real estate stuff. Like, here's a canned email, change it around a little bit, spending hours trying to type something up that makes it look like me. And so people thought I knew what I was doing at that point. And I did. Like, I get obsessed over things, so I learn it quick. But really, to get those people to trust me and all that, it was word of mouth. And it was people that knew me referring other people coming in, like, hey, this guy, he's new, and they're okay with that. But he's honest. He's brutally honest, whether you like it or not. And you can trust him to take the best care of you, like he would do like his own family. And really just relying on my mentor at the time, the people that sponsored me in the XP, I was hitting them up all day long, just asking questions.
Yeah. So you were out getting the value, getting the details, asking the questions. So from September to February, how many transactions did you close in that first year?
September to February, it would have been 3 actual transactions that I handled and 2 referrals. And that was people moving in and out of places, all military-based stuff,
Right. So tell me a little bit about the screeching halt and kind of when you realized that, maybe a little bit of it was what you were doing, the people that already knew, like, and trust you, to kind of what you did at that point in February to, maybe it wasn't February, but along your journey to kind of get dialed into, where you're at today. Because it didn't stop forever.
No, it didn't stop forever. It felt like it did. And, you don't have a consistent paycheck coming in, but I had to keep in mind too, like, I was still in the Army. I still had a 9-to-5 and I had to go back to work during the internship that I did to do real estate. So I kind of slowed down a little bit there, tried to build up systems that I didn't even know what I needed to build up at the time. People tell you what to do, but you don't know if you're brand new. But that screeching halt, it came. If you're not familiar with the military, there's like 2 times a year where people move a lot, like tens and tens of thousands of service members moving across the country. So it's like summer, and then you got a little bit of a burst there right before the holidays or right after the holidays. And after that, it's pretty dead. And my only stream of leads are people that I've been around or knew of in the military coming into Fort Bragg. Well, with Fort Bragg, one of the largest populations of soldiers in the country, everybody's spouse is a real estate agent. So how do you set yourself apart when somebody comments, I need a realtor on Facebook, and 900 comments come in there in an hour?
Yeah.
One person asked me if I could help them find land. And I'm like, well, I guess, I know land. I hunt, I'm outdoors all the time. So let's look into it. Let's do it. Started figuring out anything you need. I know the land, but I don't know how to buy and sell it. That's the thing. And what you think and you start getting into it, could really get somebody in trouble if you don't know for sure, and the legalities of it and everything going on with that land. And it really came to a point when I've showed them 10, 15 properties, and for one reason or another, like, things I would look back now, dude, no, terrible property. You cannot build on it. And so I was drowning. I was trying to figure that out, and more people wanted land. And I was just like, what am I going to do? Because this is it. This is what I want to do. And so I started hitting up other brokerages, to be completely honest, land brokerages, big name land brokerages. And one smaller one coming in North Carolina wanted me to be a big part of it. I wasn't licensed long enough to be a BIC and a broker in charge, and that's what they wanted. So I'm just like, well, this really sucks. I'm just going to sit here and grind it out. And then at that time, lo and behold, Land and Ranch gets launched. And from there, it's just been a completely 180. And, I'm busier, so I am working harder, but it's enjoyable. So,
yeah. And it's giving you the tools, right? So you knew you had to have that education. You knew you had to kind of dive into that. So give me that timeline, February to what? You were kind of stagnant, lights were off, and then
really February to May. Really mid-January to May. Started looking around, building my own tools, which are nothing that I needed, Yeah. And I heard some word on the street. There was an agent, a cross agent, well, would have been, but we never got the deal across. But she's like, hey, just so you know, like Land and Ranch or EXP is launching a land division. I was like, oh, I've seen that before. It's been dead in the water on, what is it, Workplace at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, like this is going to be legit. And so I kind of partnered up with them, started up a smaller faction of Land and Ranch here in North Carolina with them. And at this time, I've done 0 land deals, not a single one. And people are asking me for advice and stuff. And then Land and Ranch, I got on one phone call, didn't have the money to sign up to be a member. And I was like, well, I could do like, just a brand member where I can get stuff to do designing and all that good stuff. And I was like, you know what? If I'm doing it all in. So we did the full charter member. And then from there, just like the systems, the collaboration, meeting you and like guys from the Wolfpack that have been doing this for a long time and doing it well. It went from, hey, I can talk the talk to now I actually have the tools to be able to be that subject matter expert in that field. And that's been the biggest change.
Right. So from May 2025 to today, what's your production look like?
So my first year, I did 10 deals. I had like 4 blow up in my face. So that was cool. We always say, you're going to learn from things. Well, I learned like 3 years worth of mistakes in the first year, and it sucked. And then since then, might have had 1 or 2 deals going on when Land and Ranch started. Now I've got, 2 other ones kind of fell apart right before EXPCon, which, it happens on some things, but I've got 4 or 5 under contract at this point, some houses, some land, 3 or 4 land listings, 1 house listing. And then I got a spreadsheet of about 14 properties I got to go through that are ready to sell. And then constant asking of like, hey, this is the guy you need to talk to go buy land, or, hey, we're looking to sell land. And it's just that every day. And it's just because of word of mouth and people trusting what I'm doing and treating them like they're my family. In my opinion, that's what's working. But
Yep, absolutely. And talk to me a little bit about the shift to land and the fact that you were a little bit concerned about the price point and that kind of stuff until you saw the volume. So obviously land is a little bit cheaper. You're now no longer in the Army, right? Yeah. You got bills to pay, you got all the things, but I mean, 10 deals in your first year, I don't care if they're trailers, land, mansions, like that's something that new agents would thrive on. So talk to me a little bit about that mindset and how you just said, okay, I have to go all in. I have to invest in Land and Ranch, and I have to move forward there.
Well, everybody says like that first year, like, yeah, that was pretty good, man. And well, my whole thing when I joined, I have the people I did my internship with. He's a guy out of here, Fayetteville, does residential, and he does it well, and he does it on his own terms. So he's retired veteran. So he's like, I don't want to be super busy. I got this amount of money. So I was like, okay, that's great. And he knows what he's doing. My mentor was an old special forces guy that it's like real, like straight at you, like we're getting it done. So Army mentality stuff. And he capped his first year. I was like, between the 2 of them kind of people and the other supports I got, like that's going to be a good team. So now I see everybody capping and everybody doing all this, and they've been in it for years and I'm like, that's anything else is a failure. I just strive to be the best at everything I do. But I'm also looking at people are doing these things by spending money on systems and stuff like that. And I just can't do it. Yeah. I still can't do it. The land side of things here is exponentially cheaper than out west. People selling multi-million-dollar pieces of land out here. My first deal was a $95,000 20-acre property that I was the most proud of and still am. That's a cool story. But it's just spending the money, and I see why people get out in 2 years. It's like that whole stat with realtors. I see why, because if you don't have some sort of nest egg or a little bit of cushion, you will go broke if you want to be consistent and successful or continue to build, because things do cost money. And now you see why. starting your business costs money.
Yeah.
And looked at my wife, who's been the biggest support system, as much as sometimes she gets tired of me talking about it, but she's just like, you know what, if you're going to do it, like, this is your livelihood. You got out of the Army. I could have done 10 more years, got a pension and disability and been set. But we got out. And she goes, if we're going to do this, we got to do it the right way. And spent the money, and like night and day difference overnight. It was insane. And I don't think it's that way for everybody. Don't get me wrong. You still got to grind out a lot. And I'm just obsessive. I get going and I can't stop. So.
Yeah. And I mean, you're working hard, you're doing the content, you're doing the things that will really help.
I hate it. I hate that social media stuff, man, but
yeah. But, seeing you, walk a property, talking about it, right? Taking your little boy out there, those kind of things, like that's what people relate to. And whether it's a $50,000 piece of land or a $27 million piece of land, like that story and tell that story, it's huge. And also time, right? Land isn't, something that you throw up on the MLS and it has a really fancy, primary bathroom and
30 days it's closed.
Yeah. It's not that, because there's a lot of nuances to it, but the fact that you committed, even though it was a lower price point, lower commission set, you got the tools you needed, lead to a 14 listing pipeline, right? That you haven't even gone through.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a lot of nuances there. And, everybody's not going to be land. Everybody's not going to be where you are with the timber and with, the hunting properties and all of the things, but you found that one thing, you went all in on it, and now it's bearing fruit. So, tell me a little bit, because you mentioned it, you're all in on land, but you're still selling homes, right? And I talk to a lot of agents and I'm like, okay, niching down is one thing, find your niche, go all in, but treat it as a toolbox. So are your residential properties still coming from those, military relocations, or where are those residential properties coming from?
Yeah, as of right now, one's about to close, and then the other one we just listed about 2 weeks ago. They're both military guys that I've worked with. And for one reason or another ran into each other again, and they were interested in selling. Now, full disclosure, I did bring another agent on to help me, because at the time I was going to be gone for EXPCon. I was going home for 2 weeks. It's hunting season, so I might be gone and doing some things. You never know. So I brought them on just to help me. So like they still felt like somebody was in the loop at all times. And, that's a little bit of a cut on, pay of what you're wanting to do. But when your reputation is the only thing that holds you any value in this business, like you got to do something. But as far as the residential side, the other one that we're about to close on here soon for a buyer, he was on Facebook asking about doing some land in a tiny home in the county. And he's like getting a bunch of pushback from county. And somebody's like, hey, Jake Logan, would you tag me on Facebook? What can you do with this? And I was like, I'm down for a challenge, man. Let's figure it out. And, we didn't do any of that stuff. We ended up getting a regular home, but it was everything they needed. So, but at the end of the day, it's just, I was told from the very beginning, don't say no when you're new. You don't say no. Whatever it is, learn it, figure it out. If you don't want to do it again, don't do it. But until you get to the point where you can say no and your business can afford it, just don't say no and take everything that's coming in and learn from it. And that was the coolest thing I did. And meeting Taryn and all those homies over in Land and Ranch, like they're doing all these crazy deals, all these crazy acreage, all this crazy amount of money that it's listed for, but they're taking everything that I'm saying or asking or whatever and making me feel like I'm valued and a contributing member to society, even though I'm a degenerate, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think, here's the thing. There's a crazy relation to your story, leaving consistency, leaving all that it was. And so through the agent attraction things, and you're very humble in your delivery, but the fact that it's there, and the co-sponsorship opportunities with these amazing people that you've mentioned, Just Ross, Liz, Taryn within the Land and Ranch. And, it's not just how to sell land. And so let's transition a little bit into the mindset piece and what you carried over from the military background, from your days in the Army, that allowed you to really, grind through that, lull that you felt in that piece. And just in general, the properties in your area, it's not like you're rolling out of bed and falling into an average $650,000 home in a 30-day close. No. So talk about that mindset. Like, what's the number one thing you carried over from your military days, or, your baseball background as well, as a college baseball player and all those things?
Yeah, I got some, like, yeah, I got an actual base up there. But.
There you go. He stole that.
Yeah.
He wasn't very fast. He just took it off of the.
Yeah. That was a long night. It was a long night in the Wrigley Field jail for that one. So.
There you go. So what's your, what's your number one mindset piece that you carried over? Because not a lot of people grow up and be like, hey, I want to be a real estate agent when I grow up.
I didn't.
A lot of people start with something else, but the mindset piece is what trips people up. And as you alluded to, the 2 years. So what's the number one thing you took forward from the baseball, from the military, that's allowed you to stick with it?
I've said this to a couple people, not a whole lot of people really, because it comes across as like arrogant. But I've never been like the best at anything. I always try to be, and it just seems that I'm always like second best, and it just kind of pisses you off a little bit. But baseball, I was the smallest guy out there. I was from the smallest school every time. I was begging schools to give me a scholarship. Finally found one to let me play. They didn't even give me a scholarship. I didn't get a decent scholarship till my 5th year senior, and that was because I asked for it. And it was all it was me just never saying no. Like, if they needed somebody, I'd go in and play, and whether I was hurting or not, just did it. In the Army, they tell you, get all your stuff checked out before you get out, because your body's busted. I never did that. I didn't want to miss work. My guys, I was in charge of 10 dudes at one point, and I was in charge of like 130 at another point. But the 10 dudes that were looking at me for what to do, and they're guys that are 18, 19 years old. I can't just sit there and say, no, like, you guys go do this. I'm not doing it. You're doing the same thing, and you're just toughing it out. And I was always striving to be the best. I was never the best at anything, but my team was every time. And I made sure they knew it. And so just going in with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, not necessarily arrogant, and like, but you will be the best at all times. And that's kind of how I look at it here. And it doesn't help that I'm surrounded by y'all. Like, you guys are doing just insane amount of business, and you're doing it well and making it look easy. And I know it's not, but I'm like, I should be there right now. And I realized that, Jess, she's an hour and a half from me. She's probably one of my biggest supporters of all time in the real estate realm, minus my wife. But I look at her and I was like, I should be doing that. There's no reason not. Like 110 deals, like whatever it is now, I should be doing that. I didn't realize that took 9 years to get to that point,
Yeah.
But just being surrounded by the right people, having the right mindset of you will be the best, you got to do it no matter what. Like, your life depends on it. And it does. And it's not just my life. I could live my dream is to live in Alaska with no power, no electricity, nothing, and just hide and never see anybody again. Yeah. But, you got a great wife downstairs who's watching, like not watching, but making sure my kid doesn't run up here and interrupt this podcast. You're doing it for them, and you're doing it to where, like, they don't have to work. They don't have to struggle. Our kid can be 18 years old and he's got, a pretty good nest egg that if he wants to do something with it, cool. If not, like, go to school, that's fine. It's just, that's the only thing that makes me do this. Otherwise I wouldn't.
Yeah. And I think, you touched on something super important, a team builder, right? Jake is a solo agent, but he has a team, right? He has a team.
Country. That's the crazy
all across the country, people supporting him. And that's what it's like as a new agent. You have to build a team, and you're not going to be the best. But if you have a question and you have someone to call, or you have someone to plug in, you're going out of town, you have another agent that you can bring forward. Like, that's where things change. Right. And so talk a little bit about finding that team, finding your people, and kind of where that came from. Obviously the Land and Ranch division had a huge role in that decision to say, hey, I need to be around these people, right? I need these tools, $3,000. But talk about your mindset of going from this guy who's on an island trying to figure it out to, okay, I just need to do what I've done my whole life. Be a part of a team, build a team for your clients. Talk about that and where that kind of shift happened.
And yeah, so like the whole being a solo agent, everybody thinks they're just doing it on their own, whether you know it or not. Like as soon as I walked into this realm, the 5 Pillars group, they basically, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, they had a hand in almost every real estate transaction somehow in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So they knew the right people already. And when I'm asking for a lender or an attorney or, like my transaction coordinator is the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's phenomenal. I'd be nothing without her, and she knows it. She'll tell you. But they all came from those people that I started with, that I asked them from the very beginning, what do you want from me? Like, because eventually I know you're going to collect on this. And that's just how I feel. Like, chip on your shoulder, like everybody wants something. And they're like, nothing, man. I'm like, this is a pyramid scheme. Real estate as a whole is a pyramid scheme. Like, yeah, it is. I was like, well, at least you admit it. I was like, but they're like, but we're not taking money from your pocket. Like, this is what EXP brings as a value to agents, is if you do well, we do well. So we want to see you succeed, whether that's, it's motivation, I guess, if you want to do it that way, but then they genuinely care about you as a person too. And it's the people I've surrounded myself with, that I've basically made my team with from every aspect of a transaction, are the people that are your biggest supporters too. And for me, it's not so much of like, what can I do for you, or what you can do in return. Like, if somebody needs help, I help them. I don't ask for anything in return. I probably should ask for more referrals or something like that, but to make a little bit more money. But that's not what it is, because eventually somebody's good things are going to happen if you're a good person. And that's something me and you have talked about at a bar the first time we met. You look, hey, I'm going to change your life in like 30 seconds. Show me a few things on the computer. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, dude, what can I do for you? Like, nothing, man. You're gonna be a good dude, and you're gonna be successful. I just want to see it. Like, that's what it is. That's what you need as a team, and everybody involved is that team. So
and let's go down that road. AI and that quick introduction. Crappy prompt that I probably heard from Adam Gillespie that I butchered that you created. But talk about when your kind of productivity changed and merging the AI with the land and ranch, tools and that kind of stuff. Talk about how you use it today.
Well, I wish I knew more about it. Keep in mind, I was the person that was getting rid of social media when I got out of the Army. I was like, I don't need it. I don't want this. I don't want, people at AI scared the hell out of me. I was like, they're going to be like tapping into my brain. It's weird. Kind of like that tinfoil hat thing of the old guy in the Army in the corner. But I realized it can't be that way. Like, you just can't. And if Russia or China is watching what I'm doing, they got nothing better to do. So I was like, let's just dive into it. And it all opened my eyes with what you did on that as a prompt, essentially, very basic prompt. I started doing stuff like that on just land value of what this is. And then the more times that I ran into issues with, soil, septic, wetlands, hunting, if you can develop it, or how much, you can subdivide it until you have to like develop the neighborhood and actually do the infrastructure. I just saved all that on ChatGPT and started telling it to save that as a file so I could keep that and upload it into future stuff. And then Adam Gillespie was on a land and ranch call and just blew my mind. Like, people were trying to ask questions. I was like, dude, what the hell is going on here? I was interrupting everybody, which I do all the time. But I was like, this is blowing my mind, man. And then I just kind of kept in touch with him, and I wouldn't say he's giving me any freebies, because it's all over his YouTube and his courses and stuff that he does, that he just helps people do. But I've taken that with what I'm doing for land and soils and septic systems and all that. And now most of the time I can look at a piece of land, put in this prompt, upload all the files I can about it. And I would say within a 70% confidence, I can tell you just based off overlays and stuff like that, that you can build a home on that and that what it's going to cost. And I send that off to the septic guys and ask them if it's pretty accurate. And they're like, yeah, man, it's pretty good if you're not drilling holes. And I was like, I ain't doing that. That's you guys. But would this be a good idea to go under contract on it? Like, you'd be all right. And really, it's cool. It saves me time, saves me money, or saves my clients money. And you're not wasting your time on something for 3 weeks and realizing you can't do it.
Right. And I think using it as a tool is the biggest thing. Right. And it's something very important. You take what it spits out, you go to the experts. They're like, yep, that's
verify every time.
Good enough. Right. You got to verify it. You got to make sure it's before you're putting it in front of people like, hey, is this accurate? But as you start to build those relationships with those contractors, they know that when Jake calls, it's to a certain extent. Right. And he's going to provide the maps and he's going to provide the context and the detail and just verify. And that gives them the ability to talk at a higher level, to probably create some sales down the road, to be the people like, hey, I talked to ABC, excavation, and they said they could do this, like make that connection after. And then you're, kind of pumping their business as well, but also having that knowledge. Right. So to go from somebody who had no idea how to sell land to be able to, use Land ID and some of these other tools pretty quickly, utilize AI and the stuff you've put in there and come out with a pretty good thing. I mean, that's kind of where
the more you're putting, like, the more you're saying this, the more I'm realizing, like, I have only been licensed for about a year, about 13 months. And then I'm going to subtract 3 months out of that because I was trying to get out of the Army and uproot my whole life, which still here in Fayetteville. Never thought I'd say that. But we're growing to like it here, but that's a lot to be done in a year. And still, like, I feel like it's just not good enough. Because you just surround yourself with people that are doing more, and that's what you got to do. And I guess somebody told me the other day, I went and I was like, hey man, like, I need to know. He's the guy that actually got me into real estate. He was EXP's mentor of the year last year, Ruben Garcia. I was like, dude, I need help, like, building my business bigger, I guess, or like scaling. And he goes, dude, you've torn your business down 3 times in the first year and rebuilt it to something totally different. So now I'm selling off my rental property to get involved in some other, timber type investment stuff. Cause I see that. And I was like, yeah, I guess. He goes, you just need to slow down, man. Develop one thing and go on it. And that's been the hardest part, is just trying to understand that it does take time.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of people doing a bunch of different things in a bunch of different markets.
Shiny object syndrome.
Shiny object syndrome is real, right? But 12 deals closed, 5 to 10 active, listed, coming soon, whatever, and then 14 that are just on some spreadsheet that we need to probably work through at some point.
Yeah, or people that are like some of the sources where they're coming from, and to be like fully transparent, I paid for leads one time and I haven't got a single one from it. So, I wouldn't do that. But they keep, the people that are like kind of pushing some of these properties over my way, they keep hitting me up like, how far is it going on here? I was like, dude, I'm one guy. I'm one guy, and I told you I probably can't handle it, but we'll try.
Yeah.
So it's been
transparency and communication, right, with the client. So I see your JL on your hat. Tell me a little bit about the branding, where that came from, when that came into play, and kind of what your basis was for that.
I don't know. I was kind of bored one day, and like my ADHD brain was like, let's do something other than being productive. So I started messing around on Canva with this new stuff that Land and Ranch gives us. And I was like, oh, this is pretty neat. And then messing around on ChatGPT, telling it to do stuff. But you always get those like cartoon looking things. And it's like, this ain't it. And then somebody showed me a brand that they're putting on their cattle. And I'm like, that looks pretty neat. So I asked him for a catalog of cattle brands. It was Cody Kissinger. He's also in Land and Ranch. Yeah. He sent it to me, and I'm like, cool, let's get that font, put it in there, tell ChatGPT and Canva to blast this out. And this is like the third one they came up with. It's got a little house on it, arrow, all that cool stuff. But then my buddy in Illinois, I played baseball against him, never with him. Town of a couple hundred people. He's got big into hunting and stuff, and now he's doing hats. So I made him do all this. And then the contour lines, he had to go special fine patches because, of course, I can't make anything easy. And I made like 8 or 9, and I got one. I wear most of them. My favorite one somebody else has. I wonder who.
Yeah.
Met you at the bar, and I gave it some random guy. I was like, I'm never going to hear from this guy again.
Yeah. Here you are. You're on the show.
Here we are.
So,
here we are, man.
So as we kind of
cool. I love it.
Bring this full circle, buy dirt, plant roots, leave your legacy. Tell me a little bit about that, where that came from, why, and, you know, the why behind it, because you've mentioned all of those things in this interview, and it's a little bit more, it's more real than just as a tagline. So tell me about that. Yeah,
actually, I'm not sure where it came. I think it was something. I saw somebody post something about a legacy or building a brand new home. It was their legacy. It's like this is your legacy or whatever. And I was just like, man, like I did a video talking about buying dirt because they ain't making any more of it. I was listening to, what is it, Florida Georgia Line or whoever sings that song, Buy Dirt.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I basically moved most of my entire life every 3-4 years since I was 16, and never have any friends like that are local anymore because everybody always leaves with the Army or college. And so I was like, man, like just someday we're going to just plant roots. My kid's going to have his own, you know, childhood home that he can grow up in, and he's going to have forever. So I was just thinking of it one day, and just buy dirt, plant roots, and then leave your legacy. It's just like you're only as good as what you leave to the next generation. So, and then my kid, he's my only child. He seems like he's more than one child sometimes. It's kind of crazy, but at the end of the day, like I'm doing everything I do for him. And so he can be set up, and for me, just building that generational wealth and any way I can figure out how to do it. And that was what got me out of the military, is trying to get in that mindset.
Absolutely. So you have that. It's very real. It's very authentic.
And people like they said I saw that tagline, and they're like, that is awesome. Like I actually hit you up because of that. I was like, yeah, I didn't expect that, but
right. So there's a branding segment to Jake that's pretty incredible. Obviously the tagline,
I don't even know what I'm doing,
the gear, the hats, the things. So he's a little bit humble there, but I think all that has kind of to do with who you are, the person you are. I know for a fact you have some Busch Light and some of your branding and marketing. Oh, he's got one right there.
Got one right there.
Oh man, look at that guy. Too. Don't drink and drive, but you can drink and podcast. But
yeah, that's the best part of being in real estate, man. You can drink wherever you want.
There you go. So as we kind of close out, and you have a knack for finding these incredible opportunities, but they start with showing up, right? How long did you drive to get to Jess's event that I spoke at in South Carolina?
Right? It was a little over an hour and a half there. Yeah.
All right.
Drove
so he came down for the day. Yeah. Came down for the day, was supporting Jess and Taryn and the Land and Ranch crew, met myself, got plugged into AI, then, built a relationship with Adam Gillespie. So it's really about seeing the connections and taking them through. Right. And so it's very similar to a land deal or a real estate transaction, right? You can't do it all, but speak to a little bit about your strategy with that. You're still close with your main sponsor, your, buddies with the Wolfpack and Jess's crew and at EXP, it's a very collaborative effort. And so talk to me a little bit about that strategy and go from there.
Well, if you ask my wife, she's going to tell you, what's I don't even know what's a what do they call it, a woo girl or something back in the day. It's something about just whatever. It's like, but now I guess it's like win others over. She says you're a woo guy. Yeah. I'd never heard of that. And I was like, well, I guess, yeah, but like you're doing things for the right reasons, because you can be a manipulative person for terrible reasons, or you can be it for the right reasons to help everybody. And the way I see it is, it's like, you never know what you could possibly, some advice you could get from somebody, or how they could change your life later on, or how you can help them. And more importantly, how you can help them. And without even asking for anything ever, I just try to help people out. I try to connect people with the right things. And I just see every chance I get to get in a room that I probably don't belong in, honestly. And I'll be the first one to admit it. I told Land and Ranch crew that. And then when they asked me to be their ambassador, it's like, you understand, like, I don't belong in any of these rooms, but I will provide value at some point, whether you guys like it or not. And I'm going to be disruptive, but it's in the most respectful way and trying to help other people. I don't know. Relationships are everything. It's who you know. It's not what you know. You still got to know a little bit, but you could be the next guy between you and 5 other people. And, if he's familiar with you, or you have a good recommendation from somebody he knows, you're going to be ahead of the other guys. So,
yep. Your word's everything. And so,
yeah. And that's a big point. I know you're all about that too. Cause you said you'd help me on some things, and I was just like, all right, well, I'll talk to him in 2 years. And then when you follow up through it, it's like, wow, there is other people like this. And that's what I've been most impressed about everybody within your organization and Land and Ranch is when they say they're going to do something for you, they actually deliver on it.
Yep. And I think that's what it's all about. That's what partnering with the right people are about. Obviously, if you're watching this and you're like, I need some Jake Logan in my life, book a call below, mention Jake Logan. We'll definitely get you guys connected through co-sponsorship. But for those agents that are in your February 25 to your, May of 2025, what's a couple things you can give them as advice?
Find that niche of, not even a niche, I hate that word. Just find that one thing that you can do that nobody else is doing. For me, in Fayetteville and Raleigh area, it's nothing but developments and subdivisions. And I personally absolutely no offense to anybody doing it, because I know people, you need to expand and people need to make some money, and there's way more money in it than what I'm doing. I refuse to do it as much as possible. My thing is finding the land that people don't want, or hunting or timber or something that preserves nature. Like, as dumb as that sounds, I mean, I'm an outdoorsy guy, and nobody else is wanting to do that necessarily. They do a bunch of other things, but I can tell you, if it's going to be hunting properties, I'm going to be one of the best ones to do it, because I'm obsessed over that, one. But 2, I know that's my realm, is doing the stuff, getting dirty out there, getting poison ivy. I'm always covered in poison ivy, but nobody else wants to do it. But I will, because I know that's different than what people around Fort Bragg, Fayetteville area are willing to do. And so that's where I find it. And then just find a reason to do it. My reason is downstairs right now. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be in this business. Zero. I enjoy it, but I had zero intention. My wife's told me I'd be good at it, so I figured out why not. Tried it. So.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be in the military still, right? Working 18-hour days, just doing your thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. Tell the people where they can find you, where they can connect with you, and we'll go from there.
Really, it's just Facebook and Instagram. It's the Jake.Logan, I believe, is both of them. On Facebook and Instagram. And then if you ever need anything at all, hit me up on there. I'll give you my phone number. I mean, my phone gets blown up all day from spam, so I'm not going to put it out there right now. But between that and, just asking, somebody like Jeremy, it's like, hey, who do you got out in North Carolina? I mean, I'm glad to help anybody out. So you can find me at Fort Bragg anytime. Usually you can probably find me in the woods somewhere, but right now it's deer season, but it's raining. So
yeah. Well, get out there. Deers are in the rain. So Jake, thanks so much for your time, brother. Absolutely incredible what you're doing. 10 deals in your first year to, probably close to 25, 30 in your second year. I would assume, putting it out there. So
Hoping.
don't fall short, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw
And,
those words right back in your mouth about a year from now.
yeah, that's all right. Let's make it 50 to 100, right? Jess
Yeah.
Ross, I'll sick Jess on you.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for your time, brother. Connect with Jake. I'll put his stuff below. And if you are interested in connecting with a crew and having Jake kind of be your tour guide through
I'm
this,
like the redneck cousin that everybody wishes they had. That's what it is.
there you go. Well, you're my cousin, brother. So, all right, man. We will catch you guys later. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Go follow Jake, and we'll see you next time on the Wolfpack Way.
Appreciate you, Jeremy.
Yep.